Okay.
Okay, we are in. Hello, Natalie Hayden here,
And Laverne Badger.
and we're exposed.
And we have a guest. We have a guest. And this is a very special guest. His name is Michael Washington. Michael Washington is a Milwaukee police officer, but he is not here in just the capacity of his position, but we just want to start and say that we will be honoring his sister. He lost his sister, SHERIDA, last year due to SHERIDA. I'm sorry, SHERIDA.
We're gonna let him say her name.
I'm sorry. He lost his beloved sister last year due to domestic abuse, and so we're going to allow him to give us a little bit of insight from law enforcement standpoint, and just get a feel for, what his family, as much as he's comfortable with, kind of what he thought about domestic abuse prior to this situation. And you've been in law enforcement for 22 years?
Yep, 22
Okay,
years.
Milwaukee.
Now, how long has it been since the loss of your sister?
That happened last March 11th of
Okay.
2017.
Oh, okay. So as of recent.
Right. So I'm sure that some people have heard about this. Do you want to just give a quick summary of what kind of happened?
Yeah, so on March 11th, actually, of course, I remember it like it was yesterday. It was a Saturday. It was a day that I had to go to work. And I remember my mother called me probably like 1:50, asked me if I was working. And I was like, yeah, I got to go to work. I hadn't started to get ready yet. So she was like, you need to call your sister, because she was on the phone with her. And Leon, which is her husband, got on the phone, took the phone from her, was yelling in the background, tell her to get out of my house. And I remember telling my mom, I was like, Mom, I had this conversation with Sherritt before. It's, I can't get involved in that. If she's not going to, leave that situation, then it's, nothing I can do. So I'm in the process of starting to get ready for work, and my ex-wife calls me. She's worked in the communications department. So she calls me and is like, have you talked to Sherida? And I was like, no, why? And she was like, well, we just got a call, some shots fired in the house. And I'm like, what? So I immediately throw my shoes on and get in the car, drive over there. Then she calls me back, and now when she calls me back, she's crying. So I'm like, is she all right? And she was like, I don't know, that, she's shot in the head. I'm like, what? So I'm probably doing like, 90 to get there. And I get to the house, and of course there's the police tape. And as I get in there, I see the fire department wheeling her out and putting her into a med unit. So at that time I'm thinking, okay, well, that's a good sign that, they putting her in there. Right. So my next thing is like, okay, where is he at? Mm-hmm. And nobody says nothing at first, so I'm pissed,
Right.
I'm like, where is he at? And I'm like, somebody already tell me, where he is.
Where he at?
Yeah. So somebody grabbed me, one of the officers, and I knew him. He was like, he did, he shot himself. So I was like, okay. So I go outside the tape, and then I try to call my mother, and I can't get a hold of her. I called her like 5 times, she didn't answer. So she finally called me back, and I was like, Sherida got shot. She's at the hospital, so y'all need to go there. I didn't even think about, the boys. Typically, they are with her a lot on the weekends. Mm-hmm. So I thought that they might have been with her. So I'm getting in my car to leave to go to the hospital, and one of the officers comes to get me. He was like, hey, the boys was in the house. I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah, it didn't even dawn on me at that time. So then I know all the, my coworkers are, coming to the scene and investigate it. So of course I know what's happening. They need to talk to my nephews. So I know that they had them, in different cars, so they could talk to a detective. So somebody responded to the scene. They told me that, lieutenants told me that, she's alert. She's finna go into surgery. I said, okay. So my concern then focused to my nephews. And I know the procedure being on the job, I know how it happens, but it kind of pissed me off at the same time, because they didn't even let me, I'm like, I'm not gonna interfere with the investigation, but let me see them, let them see me.
Right.
I mean, look what just happened, you know, they scared.
Right.
Let them see me and let them know, you know, so I can reassure them it's gonna be
And
all
this
right.
is 13 and 9.
Yeah, 13 and 9, yeah. So that didn't happen. So I'm just playing a waiting game, waiting for them to get done. And they're giving me updates, you know, letting me know. So I appreciated that. But, you know, there's other family members from his side that are coming up to the scene. You know, some of them I know, so there's, you know, no problems. We had some animosity, of course. So I'm sitting in my car because I remember it was kind of cold that day. And I was sitting in the car with my girlfriend at the time and one of her best friends. And lieutenants come up, I get out, and that's when they tell me that she didn't make it. And immediately you get that jolt, and you just, like you see on TV.
Right.
Yeah, I got that jolt and just immediately just got weak and failed. And I just I wasn't expecting her not to make it.
To make it, yeah.
Never entered my mind at all.
Especially going into surgery alert.
Yeah, yeah. They just said she lost too much blood. So she had got shot multiple times. So
And where was he again?
where was he?
Yeah, you said he
shot
He
himself.
shot
Yeah, he shot
himself.
himself.
Okay,
Yeah, he was
that's
in.
what-
Yeah, he was in the house.
Yeah.
So
Dead on the scene.
yeah, yeah. So then I go to the hospital, and you know, we did get to see her, my mother, myself, and I think maybe my god sister. We went up and saw her. So just that, it still feel, you know, surreal,
Yeah.
because yeah, you just never expect something like that to happen.
So that's why we have to say that we really, really appreciate you being able to do this, because it did just happen last year, you know. So the luncheon that's happening Sunday, we chose your family to be honored. There were a lot of, unfortunately, there were a lot of victims in 2017, but your family was chosen for a lot of reasons. It was the law enforcement piece, the minor children, it being a marriage, that you know, there just was all these dynamics that I wanted to be able to support a fact that there is no specific list or criteria that you are the one that can be abused.
It can happen to anyone.
Right, it can happen to anyone, any family. This isn't you didn't grow up in a broken home. You guys have both your parents, you know, still together, and you know, this was a couple that was married, and you know, so I just felt like people need to understand and see that, you know, not that it takes away from the other families that fit in some of those categories, but just wanted to make sure that people understand that it can happen to anybody. And so we definitely appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate. We got a ton of, you know, support from, you know, the community and, you know, everybody. It was real touching. Yeah.
So my question is, working with law enforcement and knowing what you know today, and I remember you stated early on when Mom called, oh, she's been in this situation, I'm not gonna get involved. What would you suggest to those who may have that family member where you know, oh, that's just their MO, that's just how they operate? Knowing what you know today, if there's anything that you could throw out there.
Well, yeah, definitely. Of course, you never know that
Right.
something's gonna turn left like that, but my advice, I would be like, don't ignore it, you know, stay there. And ultimately, you can only help people that's gonna help, that wanna be helped.
Yeah.
But you make sure, you know, you're there, you offer your support as much as you can. Yeah, I just definitely wouldn't turn a blind shoulder to it. Just like, you know, well, they'll be all right, you know, because you never know what's going on.
You just never know. And I know, and you've talked to us prior to this video, and you elaborated a little bit more on the story, but there was no real signs to say that she's in true physical harm's way, you know, to say that you needed to intervene in a different way, you know what I mean?
Right.
And you being a police officer, you've seen some things escalate, but there were other things that led into that escalation, right? So you know, okay, I mean, we done got 50 calls to this particular house. It was bound to have something happen. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't necessarily that was the case with your sister.
Right. There was never a, sign of anything physical. At least if it was physical, my sister made sure that I wasn't aware of it.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure she knows
She
that
knows.
I would have intervened. She knew that.
Yes, yes. And we do. We try to protect, as victims, we try to protect our loved ones. So you being a police officer, not wanting to put you in a position where you're defending her, that essentially could possibly jeopardize your career.
Right.
But you would have done it.
Oh, absolutely.
No hesitation.
No
No hesitation. Yeah.
So where are the children today? Nephews? Will they be joining us on Sunday?
Yes, they'll be there.
Okay. Awesome.
The youngest one he's at home. He's in school today. The middle one, that's Chris, who's 14, is in Washington, D.C. right now, but he'll be back late Saturday, I want to say.
Okay. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm excited to meet them. And so, yeah, I'm excited to meet them. But is there anything, so do you think, so you're 24 years in law enforcement. 22 years in law enforcement. What has changed since 20 years ago, as far as DV, of what you see today?
Well, I believe when I first got on, I don't think that it was a mandatory arrest at the time. And I could be wrong. It's such a long time ago, but if it wasn't then, shortly after I came on, it's been a mandatory arrest.
And can you explain a little bit about what mandatory arrest is to those who have no idea?
Yeah, basically when the police are called to a domestic violence situation, we don't have a discretion to say, well, I'm not going to arrest this person. An arrest has to be made when there's a complaint, and it's up to the district attorney to decide if they're going to issue charges or not.
Okay.
And so do you think that was better?
Yes, yeah, I think it's better because it takes any type of responsibility off of the department, because you may not, because you go to this house over and over, and this person will be back, so you be like, you know what, we'll just tell him to leave, and that situation solved. Or what if this person leaves, come back, and something else happens?
Yeah,
Right.
happens, and then, yeah.
And I think that's what used to happen a lot of times, is that would be the remedy or the answer, just make this person leave, go over somebody else's house for the time being,
Right.
Right.
So is there anything that you think that seems like it should happen moving forward with law enforcement? Like where do you see law enforcement going with DV?
Well, one of the issues or concerns that I've noticed since this happened, being involved, is that I'm not sure if it's taken as serious as it should be, especially when there's officers involved. Officers, there's plenty of incidents where domestic violence occurs between officers, and depending on who the person is, it's either
You're saying officers that work in law enforcement
Yes.
in DV?
And
they're involved in
Yes,
They're being abusive.
they're
Yeah.
part of the DV.
Right.
Wow.
Exactly.
Yeah, that I've heard.
Wow.
Yeah, so when you have other officers going there, and it's not even on the officers, it's on supervisors, just because the supervisor has to respond to those situations. But officers try to protect other officers. I'm just gonna be blunt. They try to protect other officers when they can,
Yeah.
and even in those situations, that happens.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. That's really unfortunate. And so Natalie and I are going to be doing a little stint on law enforcement, and part of that is going to be law enforcement victims that work in the police department, and abusers that hold a badge and that are supposed to be protecting and serving us. And so we have a guest that I'm not gonna name her yet, but hoping to have her come on the show and talk about her experience as a police officer, but also a survivor of domestic abuse.
So I do have a question, and this will be my last question. Everyone, it seems like it's been mandated this trauma-informed care, right? So what is in place for those who hold a badge? Because I feel like domestic violence is a traumatic situation. However, you have men that hold the badge that are constantly being traumatized by being a part of, is there anything that you all have in place for yourselves to deal and cope with all the things that you're constantly, you're reporting to a scene of homicide after homicide after homicide?
There's resources available if you want to take advantage of it, but there's nothing that's mandated or, we have to do this. We actually, just as a homicide unit, just within probably the last year, we decided amongst ourselves that every so often we need like an after action review type thing where we come together, sit down, we'll have our department therapists come in, and it's for those who want to attend, that nobody's being forced to, but we decided that that's something that we need because we see a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, the focus of this podcast is not just about the prevention, but we want to also include like the healing portion of it as well, because it's continual. And the moment that you can be transparent in that, you have officers that are doing the work and they're out in trauma, all day long, and then they have to report back home. You can only imagine, the pressures that I'm not saying that it's okay for them to, but when they get home, they want to take off their hats, and maybe they don't have a space to do that. So I just wanted to know if there was something, and if, there could be a push for that, for those that are, because they are here for us. Of the community, and so they need
the ones who tend to get the backlash of those pressures are the ones closest to you. When you take that stuff home, it's your kids and your wife or your husband that end up feeling those effects of that. And so, but yeah, how are the boys? The boys are good. We're in closing. I just want to make sure you good. How's your family?
Yeah, the boys are doing good. They they're resilient, that's how kids are. But I get a lot of my strength from them. Just seeing them, excel and what they want to do, and just.
And it's 3 boys.
Right.
The oldest is 21.
Yep.
Police Academy.
Wow.
He is in the police academy. I know his mom will be so proud of him right now. So yeah, just still, you guys. I know. It's a hard situation, but it sounds like your family unit is very positive and healthy and are doing all the right steps to make sure that these boys are going to turn into great men.
Definitely blessed.
Yes.
So, all right.
We want to thank you.
We want to thank you. And so,
thanks for having me.
Yeah. So we will. He will be at the luncheon tomorrow.
Sunday.
Sunday. SHERIDA, yes. So SHERIDA and her, his brother Michael, her brother, and her parents and her 3 boys will actually be joining us and be honored, and are going to be honored at this event. And if you want to hear more of Michael's story about his sister and how much he loved her and how much her boys loved her and how she loved her family and loved life, join us at the luncheon on Sunday. 2 to 5. There are still a few tickets left, so go on Eventbrite and get your tickets now. So we will see you guys on Sunday. And Natalie Hayden.
Yes.
And Laverne Badger. Let's talk.
All right. Have a great evening.